We're going to start off and we're just going to chat about your guide to home ownership here. My name is Tony Lacasse, residential real estate agent with Keller Williams Metropolitan in Bedford and Concord. We're going to chat about how to get into a home in this current market. It's a seller's market right now, and it's tough to try and get homes, get people into homes right now. So this is kind of a table of contents that we're going to be chatting about today. So the initial consultation, right? So your needs come first as a client when you work with me. There is a difference between a customer and a client, and that's the level of service that you get. So as a customer, essentially in New Hampshire, the only thing I'm obligated to provide to customers are I'm supposed to be honest with you, and I'm supposed to give what they call reasonable care. Okay. So basically it's very bare bones minimum. If you're a customer, and then I have like 10 other clients that I'm working with, the clients, since they're signed with me, they come first, and I'm there looking at properties for them. They call me versus my customer calls me. Technically, my first obligation is to the client, then the customer. So that's an interesting, fact that I like to point out, because I don't think a lot of realtors necessarily explain that upfront to people, potential buyers. So that's why it's super important, no matter where it is that you're in the process, that you talk and you sit down with a real estate professional so that you understand the services that you are obligated to have for a real estate professional in New Hampshire, and what you're not obligated to have if you're not signed on, and what the benefit of that is. And the only way to know that is to have your first consultation with a real estate professional. So basically, I want you guys, actually all of you in the room, I want you guys to close your eyes. Close your eyes. I want you guys to visualize your dream home. It may look like a multifamily. It may look like a single family, a ranch. It could be a craftsman, maybe a bungalow. Maybe it's a beautiful mansion on the ocean. Maybe it's in Maine, maybe it's in New Hampshire, maybe it's in Hawaii, I don't know. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does the house feel like when you're in there? What do you see when you walk into the room, in the front door? As you enter into the home, what do you imagine yourself doing? You imagine yourself with family, friends, in the dining room. Maybe it's a Thanksgiving meal or a Christmas meal, and afterwards you are enjoying the football game in the living room. Or maybe it is that you enjoy having a game night in the finished basement downstairs in your home. Or it's soaking in a beautiful big tub in your bathroom, your master ensuite bathroom, tiled, beautiful glass, awesome, huge clawfoot tub, steam shower, whatever it may be. This is your house. It's your dream house. Open your eyes. So, did you guys visualize your dream home?
Yes.
I did.
So, Rich, what does your dream home look like when you close your eyes and did that exercise?
Secluded.
Secluded.
It's on a lake.
On a lake.
I walk in there. I walk into the living room, actually. I don't know why. I envision myself cooking. And so it's really quiet. Nobody really could bother me out there.
Can we visit?
I mean, like, sure, yeah. But please call ladies in advance.
Good internet.
There is internet, yes. There is internet, yeah. That's what I imagined. I want a house that I do want it to be secluded. I do want it to be on a lake. I do want it to be worry-free as well. Maybe turnkey would be a good way to put that.
Awesome. Ashley, did you have anything in mind?
Yes, definitely newer than the home that I'm in now. More updated, but clean. Same thing, I pictured myself cooking. Used to the bathtub, yes, definitely, I don't have one of those now. A big flat yard. That my son can play in. He's fast, yeah.
Love that.
My house now is really outdated, so. I just want something newer that I don't have to stress about, you know, the boiler is gonna go, the septic might go. You know, it's older, so,
That's what I felt off in my house too. It's like, I don't have to worry about this
Yeah.
stuff.
less worried,
Right.
newer. Just like I like a cleaner look.
Anybody else want to share? Oh, Tracy?
Mine's on the other end, so I just want a duplex in an over 55 community with a big pool and that I can run bingo and that I'll cook some and you can come and visit. But if you're not over 55, you can't stay.
What do you envision
In the
yourself
South.
cooking?
I'll cook
Spaghetti?
spaghetti,
Spaghetti.
Okay, nice.
but it's my retirement place. I'm on the other end. I mean, what's your dream home? You would
Oh,
have
I
it.
was too scatterbrained. I
Oh.
jumped from thing to thing. I'm like squirrel for my age. I couldn't pinpoint it.
Mine's been the
You
same
couldn't
for
pinpoint,
30 years.
no, let's stop there. You couldn't pinpoint what you wanted?
No,
Wow.
that's why I'm still in the same house for 20-ish years.
So you're not the only one out there that can't pinpoint what it is that they actually want. And so that was actually,
It's too overwhelming.
I did not plant her, by the way. I had no clue that was gonna be her response, like this was totally not planned,
Yeah.
really seriously. But I'm so glad that you said that because that is, and I wanted to do this exercise to kind of showcase and have you guys start that process of what it is that you truly think that you want, because in the beginning, what you think you want usually isn't actually what you actually end up getting or what you really want. So the process usually takes time, right? And you need to start looking at properties and a bunch of different types of properties, figuring out what type of style home that you like, what the floor plan layout is and things like that. And then that will change your perspective on what it truly is actually that you want at the end of the day. And you actually put the winning offer in on your home. So having that real estate professional that is able to walk you through that process and understand what it is that you have in your mind, because that's what we have to do, is we have to literally get inside your head and figure out what it is that you want. It's probably one of the hardest jobs out there. Because
A lot of psychology with your job, I would think.
a lot of that, yeah. That's why I usually like to start my consultations and exercises with, closing your eyes and figuring out what that looks like for you. So that's here. Building your preference profile, the basics. So asking yourself, what timeline would you like to strive for in terms of purchasing a home, right? What does that look like for you? Have you looked into getting pre-approved for a home loan? That is super important. Getting yourself connected with a trusted, verified local lender is so important because there's a difference between a loan officer, a lender, and a banker. And I'm going to have Rich kind of talk a little bit more about his side and the lending and the financials, that section of it later on. But it's so important to figure out what you're pre-qualified or pre-approved for, which by the way, they're two different things, before you start kind of looking. But however, that doesn't mean that you aren't going to meet with me prior to getting pre-approved, because there is a lot that we need to discuss as your realtor and the buyer and buyers, as far as that dream, that vision. What does it look like? What's the timeline? What's the motivation for you? Why is it that you want to buy a home right now? I'm going to ask you guys that right now. Why is it, if you're here today and you are considering buying a property, whatever that looks like to you, I want you to think about that. I'm going to give you a minute. I want you to write down on that notepad, Why is it that you're looking to purchase a property in this current market right now? What's the motivation? What's the motivation for you? Multifamily passive income, that's the motivation. So you want to try and build some wealth.
Something that eventually I can just own, right? Maybe have a couple.
Build that equity.
That eventually get.
Perfect. So right now, you're currently staying with family?
Yeah.
And so really, you're staying with family and you've been staying with family for how long? A while?
Yeah.
A while.
I'm 27.
Yeah. So, oh, so you have it. So, okay.
She had a child and all that, so she bought a home.
That's why I bought a house. I got
I-
pregnant and I
stayed
said,
there.
all right, time to buy out, time to move out.
So your motivation,
I'm 4 years older than him. Yeah,
so your motivation actually was you needed more space.
yeah,
That was your motivation. You got pregnant. I can't deal with this kid with my family in a basement or whatever it was, your situation. So that was your motivation. Your motivation, it sounds like, is you just don't want to be like in this situation anymore. You don't want to be with your family, with your parents, whatever. And your motivation is privacy, I think, probably privacy. And then you want to also have financial freedom down the line.
Yeah.
And the way you're gonna do that.
I just want financial freedom and privacy, because I don't know, multifamily, I rent out a couple of floors, it's not gonna be so.
Or you want to have your own space.
I might even rent a room to a buddy of mine, or I need in where I live.
Okay, okay. Okay, we got a businessman. Okay. Okay, we got a businessman in the room. I respect that. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been with the trades and stuff, I know a lot of people, so like. A lot of people, I mean, not a lot of people, but I've heard mixed stories, of you get a call with this kind of thing, something goes wrong, something blows up.
You have those connections and you have that ability to be able to make that work.
Right.
Yeah, and then leverage that and build equity and then live your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make that happen. So next question I ask people is, have you thought about the price range you'd be comfortable with? So the only way I would say that you'd understand that is once you have a budget set for yourself. If you have been living at home the entire time in your life, and you haven't been paying rent and you haven't been paying utilities, when you don't have any bills per se, when it comes to a rent or your housing, you're gonna wanna look into that and figure out what that looks like for you, because you've never looked at that before. So that's gonna be super important for you to figure out, because if you don't even know what that number is, you're not gonna know what is a comfortable number because you've never had to pay it before. So that would be step one, if you haven't ever paid rent or bills or anything like that. And I have, usually, so Rich would likely be able to kind of sort of help you out, figure to a point, that type of stuff as well. And then you'll talk with Rich more in depth about your income and your financials and figuring out what that looks like for a pre-approval. And then that will help you figure out your monthly payment and what does that monthly payment look like? Because you could be maxed out, like he can max you out at like theoretically the top line of what your income allows you to do. But at the end of the day, if you're maxed out and you don't actually look at your budget, is it comfortable? Is it not comfortable? You don't know because you didn't actually look at that monthly payment compared to your bills and your expenses. So you're not gonna know if it's comfortable or not. And then you might go and you don't know that it's maxed out. And then you buy that property in this crazy market. And then you're like, oh, I'm house poor now. I can't eat. Like, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. So that's where the whole team comes into play when you're purchasing a property, okay? And then this is just preferences on communication, and that's, I always ask my customers, how do you prefer to get communicated with? Because people have different schedules and things. your home wish list. So kind of, we already did that exercise when you were like envisioning your home. And so I'd have you just create a wish list right now. If you have some time, I'll give you about 60 seconds to write down your wish list as to what it is that you're looking for in a home. Whether it's the duplex, the multifamily, single family, the 55 and up, whether you want a boat on a river in wherever that is, I don't know, but think about your wish list. Think about what are your wants and then what are your needs, because those are two very different things.
Mhm. Are you filming this like for other people to see?
Yeah.
Cause it's cutting your head off.
Okay.
That's better.
Thanks, Trace.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
I think it's been two screens though, so I think the bottom of the tennis.
I think, yeah.
Leave the whole.
Yeah.
There, but.
Yeah, I don't know about this owl thing, but I think it's probably covered.
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, owl is sweet.
I've never heard of him.
Okay. So now that we've done that, I'm not gonna ask you anything about that. We'll go back to it later. Your neighborhood preference. So obviously, there's certain areas that most people want to be in, they want to stay in, whether that's because they're having kids and they want to be in a certain school district. So you're gonna look in certain towns, certain communities. That's another reason why people like to be in a certain area. Or maybe you want to be in a certain town because you have family in there and you are very close to them and you want to stay. Or maybe it's because you want to be close to work, whatever that is. You definitely want to figure out what that looks like and how far away you're willing to drive, because the further away you go from the city, the less expensive it becomes. The further north and west you go in New Hampshire, the more affordable it becomes. Southern New Hampshire is highly expensive, which when I say that, that's pretty much Manchester South. And then the most expensive county in New Hampshire is Rockingham. So the Seacoast area is the highest. The median home value for 2022 in Rockingham County was $550,000. So that's quite a bit of money. So figuring out what area you want to be in, kind of important, because that's going to dictate where you're going to be able to buy. And if that even makes sense for you. So map your move. When's the best time to buy? Well, I get that question asked a lot to me. And you know what? The best time to buy is when you're ready and able to buy, honestly and truly, because you're never going to time the market ever. Nobody has a crystal ball. And if they did, well, I would have it and I'd be rich. And I'm not. And I'm a real estate professional and I watch the market on a daily basis. So I always tell people, I always ask that question, why are you buying? What's the motivation for you? And if that motivation is strong enough, you will get a home, no matter what market you're in, if you have the right real estate professional helping you on your side, as well as the team that is around that real estate professional. It really matters. So the time is now if you're ready, able, and willing. This is kind of the process of when you submit an offer, say you go under contract, then you, before you close, there's a process, then you have closing day and closing day. So when you go under contract, there's a whole lot to it. I'm not going to go really in depth into it because we don't have a ton of time left, but you secure your financing contingency, your loan with Rich. And then you're going to reach out to your insurance agent. So Michelle Gendron, Gendron Insurance Agency, this is Michelle. I will call Michelle. I actually called her the other day, because, and we didn't. even-
Twice this week or last for flood, right?
Right, and I didn't even submit the offer. We haven't even seen it yet. But I just knew that this property was likely gonna be in a flood zone, and I wanted to do due diligence for my buyers because it could be expensive, and the first quote you said was crazy expensive.
Yeah.
So, why waste your time and go see something if, for
To
one,
get broken hearted.
it's in a flood zone? And I've worked people, they say, when they find out it's in a flood zone, hell no, I'm not going, I don't want, I don't want to be about that. So having that done, talking to your insurance agent, upfront early, and letting them know kind of what's the deal with the property, it is important. And then once you go under contract, she's one of the first people I call, because I want to let her know that they're under contract and that we're able to get homeowners insurance for my buyers. Because most cases you are able to get homeowners insurance, but sometimes it's a property that's strange, kind of weird, and it may not be insurable for whatever reason. Maybe it's got knob and tube in it, maybe electrician, so those are not. Is there any carrier that insures knob and tube?
No, I mean, there might be somebody that will just, the answer to the question is no.
No, but there may be some that kind of like give a side eye to it.
Right,
Yes. So, and then you,
but I mean, if it's something that you know is there and it was disclosed and you go and get insurance and don't disclose that, then they can reject your claim if you have a fire due to an electrical issue.
right,
So it's not worth, fraud's never a good thing to do.
no, and that's why you gotta have a good insurance agent on your side to give you proper coverage, because if something does happen down the line, you might be screwed.
If you're an electrician, you come across an outlet too, you tell them no, not touch it.
Yeah, yeah.
They know, it's so fragile, it's so old. It's just-
You might want to tell people what knob and tube is.
So, well, actually, I'll have the electrician.
You can-
I think it's important.
I mean, so knob and tube, the specifics of it, I'm not an electrician, so I don't know the specifics of knob and tube, but
That is.
my dad is, and I can call him right now. Dad, but so my understanding, I mean, I know what it looks like, and it's like the kind of porcelain knob, and then you have like the old school, what is it? It's not, what's the word? It's the cloth. You know what I'm talking about? It's the cloth wire, Romex, similar to Romex. I think the knob and tube was prior Romex, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's like ancient.
yeah, but it looks kind of sort of similar-ish, and that's what I know about knob and tube. So, but
They stopped using it in the,
Like in the forties or something,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, so if you see knob and tube in a property with your realtor, don't be scared right away, because they may be discontinued and they may have updated service in the property. But that's something that the home inspector will pick out and let you know. I'm not a home inspector, I'm not an electrician. That's why I don't exactly know the specifics on knob and tube. Didn't know I was getting tested today. Yeah, so then, we have the home inspection, that goes through if you're having a home inspection in this market, which sometimes people are waiving their home inspections right now because it's a competitive market, and a lot of sellers, disregard offers that have home inspections. They put them right down at the bottom of the pile and they stop looking at it, which is kind of sad. So that's why you gotta talk to your real estate professional and see what your level of comfortability is in terms of having one versus not. Are you handy? Are you not? Do you have somebody that's able to kind of look at that and do kind of a pre-inspection while you're doing the walkthrough? And then we as a team can set that up. Maybe you have an uncle or somebody who is really handy and they know what they're looking at. Can be a two-sided sword, because sometimes the uncle that knows a little bit about construction may not know anything about the current real estate market, and then thinks that you're dummies, because you're overpaying for property right now, which I'm sure a lot of you probably are hearing. And honestly, it's not overpaying, because there are tons of people out there that have the money and they're willing to pay for it. So it's called market value, when you have property and people are willing to pay it. That's what real estate is. It's that. So now that I've kind of like talked a lot about my stuff, I'm gonna hand it over to Michelle. And Michelle's gonna talk a little bit about insurance and that process.
Okay.
So you're up.
Thank you. All right. So after you find your dream home, probably, and you have your financing and everything, it is really important not to wait till the last minute to get your homeowner's insurance, because like Tony said, there are situations where a property might be a little bit more difficult to insure. Not saying it can't be insured, but the premium that you're gonna pay for that property might be more than what's in your budget. So it's always important, like Tony said, you wanna make sure it's not in a flood zone. You wanna make sure that the house is not so remote that a fire truck can't,
Like Class 6 road.
yeah, like if you can get these private dirt roads, if it's more than 5 miles from a fire department. Those are tricky, and it gets, then you have to go into insurance, you're gonna have to pay a premium to have a house that's at a higher risk to insure. If you're on top of a mountain and you can't, and a fire truck can't get there, it's gonna be hard to get insurance there. And if you can get it, it's gonna be really expensive. And then the other thing that's really important is if you waive the inspection, which we know unfortunately is is what a lot of people have to do right now, which is unfortunate because of the amount of, this is the biggest purchase and asset of your life probably. So I would recommend still going and having an inspection done after the fact, just so that you can be prepared to protect yourself, if something happens. Because one of the calls that I've been getting a lot in the last year or two, which I never got before, is, someone calling and saying, hey, Michelle, my oil tank, is busted, or I can't think of a good thing off the top of my head, but, or the roof had the foundation has a crack, or the roof is leaking or something like that. Unfortunately, you just bought the home, your homeowner's insurance isn't gonna cover a pre-existing condition. So if you're, the chimney is coming off that is leaning and is starting to break away from the house, your insurance isn't gonna cover that for you. So these are just things that you wanna look at with your realtor and or inspector to make sure that it is insurable. So contacting a local agent is definitely the way to go. Someone who can get the binder to your lender, make changes, talk to your lender directly so that you don't have to be a middleman. It just makes the process so much easier for you. And honestly, a local agent is going to spend the time and explain to you what's covered, what's not covered in insurance. Wear and tear is not covered. If people will call, oh, my windowsills are starting to rot. Well, that's a maintenance issue. That's insurance isn't going to cover that. So those, again, things to look for when, buying a fixer-upper or whatever, So yeah, so think of insurance as accidental. So something that accidentally happens. It's not anything that's going to be a wear and tear. If your water tank blows, they're going to cover the damage from the water, but they're not going to cover the tank itself. So just things like that you really want to ask the questions. There's a lot of endorsements, optional coverages in insurance, and it's important to know what your options are and that you find somebody that will take the time to educate you. So at the end of the day, you're making the right decision on insuring this biggest asset that you now have. Other than that, I think that the most important thing is just, not to wait till the last minute, because people will, kind of wait till the last minute, and then all of a sudden they're 2 weeks to close and their lender, not rich, but their lender says, oh, this isn't a flood zone, you're required to have flood insurance, and now you're hit with a $5,000. Not on top of the homeowner insurance that you're gonna have to pay and factor into your budget, so.
Which could potentially disqualify them from their mortgage.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if it's in a flood zone and you have a mortgage, then the mortgage carrier is going to require that that house is protected from a flood. Even if there hasn't been a flood in 100 years, you know, so it's definitely, you know, if you are somewhere, you know, near water or wetlands. You know, do your due diligence, not that it can't be done, and flood insurance, you know, if you're not in a flood zone, is like $400 a year. So it's just, but it could be, you know, if you're, you know, on Ocean Boulevard in Hampton Beach, you know, it's gonna cost you, so. Just things that that's the last thing you want is, you know, 2 weeks before closing, having your heart broken because you can't get the coverage you need or can't afford it. So I think those are the biggest takeaways with the insurance.
Great.
Yeah.
So now I'm gonna have Rich talk about his lending.
Musical chairs.
My name is Rich Zolar. I work with Title Mortgage Solution. I've been a lender for 7 years. I've seen a lot when it comes to real estate. My job is to make sure that your deal is not going to fall through before closing. My deal is to make sure that this is going to be within your budgets. My job is to make sure you're talking to the right people. My job is to make sure that there are going to be no surprises between day 1 and day 30 when you finally get into your dream home that Tony had you envision. It's important to get pre-approved beforehand. You do want to be sure that you're not going to be put out of your price range. So a good way to think about it is, what do you pay for rent right now? If that number is 1,000, 2,000, 0 in some cases, you have to make sure that what you're going to be paying in the future is going to fit into your budget. It's going to fit into your monthly take-home pay. You know, you might have, say, a $50,000 a year salary, but when it gets into your paycheck at the end of the day, like, you're not making $50,000. We all know that. You have to pay for health insurance, you have to pay for taxes. So what's that end all number? I can qualify you up to whatever amount that the numbers allow for. And that number might be $2,500, but if $2,000 is going to put you into an uncomfortable situation, that's the number that you're going to need to go by here. I pass that information along to Tony. Tony finds you a house that's going to fit into that aspect there, whether it be a multifamily, a single family, whatever type of home you're looking for. For example, multifamily, you're going to have rent coming in, which is going to be great. You're going to be able to put that towards your housing payment. You're going to gain equity in the long run. If you're looking at a condo, you have to keep in mind, just because it's $200,000, there might be an HOA charge on there. So they can plow the streets and take out the trash or whatever that might end up going into. There's no way to know any of this without talking to a real estate agent, without talking to a lender. So we make sure that you're going to be connected with the right people. So day 1, when you go under contract, after Tony finds you the house that you're looking for, we already have you all set up. We've already looked at your finances. We've already looked at your pay stubs and your bank accounts and find out your budget. We're going to have to hook you up with an insurance agent, a title company as well. So I say, who do you work with for your insurance? And you're going to say like Geico or something along those lines. And I say, well, that's great. Why is it not Michelle? In addition to that, with the title company as well, you want to be sure that you're taken care of, because this is the biggest purchase that you're going to make probably during your entire life. Without having the right team in place, without knowing that 10 years from now, somebody's not going to come banging on your door saying, this is my property, please get out. Tracy's company is going to make sure that that doesn't happen. So I suppose the next step here is, what did you guys come here for today? Is there any questions that I can answer about financing? It's a confusing topic. You know, it takes a long time to learn. Is there anything that you were wondering about financing specifically? Okay, so how much do you have to put down on a house? Anybody know the answer to that? Anybody? Tony?
Like 20, it could be 20% down or 0, depending on if you qualify for certain things.
Right, could be 20, if you have 20%. If you have 20%, great, you've done a great job saving up to this point in time. A lot of people who are going into their first purchase, yes,
Is the first time home buyer still 3%?
first time home buyer is still 3%. And so that's your conventional loan with Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
That 20 just gets rid of home buyer, right?
20 gets rid of private mortgage insurance, yeah. If you put it on anything less than 20, you're gonna have private mortgage insurance unless you're a qualified veteran. If you can qualify for a VA loan, then you don't have mortgage insurance. So with the 3% Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac program, you can get in, you're buying a $300,000 house. 3% is $9,000, right? But you have to keep in mind, there's going to be closing costs, such as transfer tax. You're going to have to populate escrow accounts for your tax bill and insurance payment. You have to pay a year's worth of insurance. You're going to have to pay for an attorney. You're going to have to pay for an appraisal, so on and so forth. When everything's said and done, you're looking probably north of 15K, somewhere between 15 and 20 grand for a $300,000 purchase. Do you have that saved up? Are you ready to go for that? If the answer is yes, great, let's get you onto a conventional program as long as we can get you qualified. If the answer is no, we have to look into other avenues. There's other avenues such as New Hampshire Housing offers down payment and closing cost assistance. You can qualify for that if you qualify for that program by getting underneath a certain income limit. We'd be happy to connect you with the people who can help with that. I believe Tony has a few that he knows as well. So I think with the next step, so we know how far out you guys are on buying a property as of right now, kind of, if it comes up, the opportunity's right, that's great, right? How far out are you looking at purchasing a property?
I would love to be in one by September.
Okay. So we're talking 6 months here. Less than that, I guess. We're like 4 now. This time has flown. So how far? So have you been pre-approved or pre-qualified with the lender?
We were a little bit ago, we need to, I'm making more money now, so we're gonna see. Go back and see.
Okay, perfect. And so the more money is going to be great, and something that I heard earlier is that there might have been a job switch recently, for example. Something like that isn't necessarily going to hold you up either. If you have a better opportunity, you take it. It's likely not going to affect your financing as long as you can continue with a steady income, which we could prove by just one pay stub. So that's always great. We'd love to talk to you in regards to your budgets and everything like that. Obviously, this is not the time or the place for it, but thank you for answering. I appreciate that. So if you're 4 months out, you're going to have a pretty solid grasp. You're going to have to be ready to get into this housing market because it goes quick. Is that correct?
Very accurate.
It was very quick.
Yeah. I mean, for example, I put in an offer for some very, very strong, well-qualified buyers of mine. Their financing was 20% down, conventional buyers. And we had a property in Concord on the West End neighborhood. If anyone's familiar with Concord, that is one of the best neighborhoods in the city. And we put an offer 55,000 over the asking price. We actually covered the entire appraisal difference, if there was any difference from appraised value on the property to what they were offering the seller. So they were guaranteeing the price of what they were offering the seller. They also waived inspections. There was a total of 18 offers on that property, and my buyers actually did not win. They were number 2. So we did write a hell of an offer, but they ended up getting beat out by cash. And that's what I'm seeing a lot in this market right now. But it doesn't mean that you get discouraged because there are a lot of creative ways to get around different offers. I'm not going to get into all that today. That'll be another time where we can sit down together. And if you choose to hire me as your exclusive buyer's agent, I will go over all of those different creative ways that I have my offers, win essentially in this market. So
Tony's offers do win. I've seen it. plenty of times before. So when you have a local agent, when you have a local mortgage company or title company or insurance agent, that's going to be the most helpful part to you. If you turn in your offer with somebody who might not be from around here, the listing agent knows that the accountability hasn't been created. I have to look at you guys. I have to look at the people I work with, and they trust me as much as I trust them. And so when the listing agent sees somebody that has like a 603 area code, it's going to be a lot better than somebody that has the 1-800 in front of their number, because they know they can't call somebody to yell at. Really is going to be the interest there. That's the be all end all right there. So we can get you all set up. Takes usually less than a day to get it going. Be happy to work with anybody here, friends, family, coworkers, whatever it ends up being. We want to be sure that you know your monthly budget. We want to be sure that you know what you're going to be bringing to the closing table. We want to be sure that you're in the right program for you. Make sure that you know the ins and outs of financing for a multifamily or a condo or whatever it might end up being. Be happy to help you out with any of that. Is there anything I haven't covered that you came here looking for me to cover today? If something pops into your head on the ride home, my cell phone number's on the card. Give me a call there. I'm going to let Tracy talk now. Tracy is with Signature Escrow and Title, which is a great company we refer to often. They take care of everybody, and they are local.
You can.
I mean, I have a question about, so I have a home
Yeah,
and the equity, like how the equity is up right now.
so I can
I
come
guess-
to your house, let you know what it's worth, and then you'll figure out, I can actually give you an equity report too.
But here's the thing, like, say I mean, this is kind of off subject of what we're talking about here, but say I like wanted to purchase like a duplex or a multi-home with that equity. And then what if I take out money and then the market goes back down, like is that? I mean, like that's where I'm like,
That's a good
Yeah.
question. There's a couple answers to that question. Answer one is yes, you can, like a HELOC or a cash out refinance. When did you buy your property?
in 2016.
Okay, so you probably have a ton of equity in that property by now. The market's done a lot since 2016. Just that opportunity for you to move, you know, whether caused by a new addition to the family or whatever it was, that ended up being the right decision for you, even though it might have felt like you might have been at the top of the market then. Turned out it wasn't the case, right? So now you have all this equity in the property. You can use that equity to put down on, say, a multifamily or an investment property, whatever it ends up being. If you're buying it solely as an investment property and you have no plan on living in the property, you need 25% down on that property. So that's going to affect your price range.
If you're not owner occupying it.
Yeah, so owner occupancy is
Yeah.
just 1 year, right?
Correct.
Yeah, exactly. You move in within 60 days and honestly, nobody's going to be like knocking on your door.
Well, you've been thinking about this for a long
Yeah,
time.
you have to be so.
If you stayed in there less than a year, then people change their minds, like stuff happens, like nobody's forcing you to stay in that property.
So what is it, 20% if I do, if I were gonna live in it?
You're
No,
gonna make it a primary residence.
Like say it was a duplex and I live in half.
Duplex, you're gonna need at least 5% down. As long as it's a primary residence. You have to qualify for that 5% down program. And then, you know, you could be renting out your other property if you decide to keep that as an investment property, or the other one. You get a lease for that property, you can use that as income. Before that, maybe take out a HELOC on the property, so you can use as a down payment for the new homes. That way you don't tap into any savings or anything like that. So once you do that, you put the 5% down, you buy the duplex and move in within 60 days. Give me a good reason why you're moving from single family to a duplex.
Because to get that dream home in the future, I need to make more money first.
That's
I
perfect.
need it in between.
That's a darn good reason, if you ask me. And, you know, you're just trying to wealth build, and that's completely understandable. If you were making it a primary residence, did you do your current loan in the FHA program, or is it just?
I did, but like I've
Refinance?
already, I got rid of the PMI.
Okay, so you refinanced.
I've refinanced,
Okay.
yeah.
So since you don't have an FHA loan, you could also buy a duplex at 3.5% down if you're planning on making it a primary residence. That's usually the stepping stone into building wealth, is using that FHA loan, refinancing out of it, using the FHA loan again, refinancing out of it. Just keep on going down the road.
you know the burr? The burr method?
That's what it is. We'll chat about that
Yeah,
later.
we could talk about this a little further, but it is certainly
Yes.
possible, you know, and we could set up like a meeting as, you know, maybe take like 45 minutes and go through all these questions and everything like that. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like we have a lot more questions about like that.
Yeah,
Why,
yeah.
y'all don't wanna talk about title?
Look at her, she's like kidding, she's like, let me talk about me.
Yeah, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. She's already like.
Picture.
Patient with her.
I was gonna take a picture. I saw you taking pictures of us
You're so good.
and I didn't want nobody to take.
I feel like I have to be up with you.
Why? Because I want to make sure that my head's not cut off where it is if I'm talking live. So my name is Tracy Lurvy. I'm a title closer with Signature Escrow and Title. A lot of people, you know, don't even know that they can pick their own title company when they purchase a home. So that's why it's so nice that we're in this team together. Because you know that every step of the way you're gonna have, because you could have a title closer that you have no idea what they do or who they are. So it is important to work with a team. Today, I was just gonna touch base on a couple things. I was gonna talk about title insurance, and then I realized, well, people don't even realize what they do when we're waiting for you. When you purchase your home, and then you get the insurance, and you've got Rich that he's done everything for you, and you're waiting that 30 days. What we do in that 30 days is what I was just gonna touch base on, and it's right in the brochure, and it's easy to tell you. We've got our title processors, and what we do from the beginning is we're gonna search your title because we wanna give you a warranty deed, which is the best deed that you can have. So at the closing, we're gonna have the seller sign the deed, and that's gonna be your deed, and a warranty deed means that you've got a clear title, you have no issues. But you're still gonna get title insurance, because even though we're a lawyer, or I'm not a lawyer, but even though the lawyers have checked everything and gone back, there's still times that things can get mixed. There's public errors at the record department. When people ask me about title insurance and the closing, and if they have to have it, we want you to have it, and we want you to be protected, because it's not very much money for the biggest asset of your life. But I use two examples. I say that you're in your house, and it was funny because you used one of them. I said, you don't want to be in your new house and grandma knocks on the door and say, I live here, here's my deed. Well, she was from the 60s or the 70s and before computers, and we've checked back as far as we can. There could be a title that wasn't recorded. And so there could be a title and a deed that somebody could knock on the door and they could own your house. So instead of arguing with them, you would just say, no, let me in. I live here. And so all you would do is you've got your title policy, and those lawyers handle it for you. If you didn't have that policy and you had to go to court, for one, you would be the one that would be missing work, and you would be at court, and it would cost you thousands of dollars. The title policy covers that for little money, and they're going to make sure that you're in the house and that deed does get discharged. And then I say another with your expanded policy that people will get. Say that Fred, your next door neighbor's building on your property line, and you're like, hey, that's my property. And he's like, no, it's not, and I'm putting this fence here. And you don't argue with Fred, you just get your policy out and call, and the lawyers, they will call Fred, and you will, if they have to go to court. But there's so many things that you don't think of in the policies that it's little money to be covered for the life that you're in the home. And that policy is covered for as long as you're in the house. When you sell the house, then the policy goes to, it can't be, a new policy will be up. But so I got off track from the title policy. But what we do, what our title processors do, is we just get the public records for everything that's in the, you know, on that record for the deed to make sure you have a clean deed. We confirm the annual tax amounts. Sometimes it's an estimate if it's that June and December range when you're going to hold escrow, because sometimes you don't have to have an escrow account with your loan.
What's an escrow
Sometimes you
account?
have to. An escrow account is where you will put your taxes and your homeowner's insurance into that account. And so in your closing cost, you will say you will have 3 months of taxes and a year of insurance. So you'll start your closing, say it's a $300,000 house, your beginning balance would be $1,500. Then there's a buffer. So you would eat through that buffer before they would ask you, your mortgage company would ask you for more money. So what that does in your monthly payment, it's not just on your mortgage where it tells you what your payment is. you're adding your taxes and your homeowner's insurance, so you don't have to pay those on a separate check. Your one figure is, say, you're paying $2,000 for your house payment, then you're adding your insurance of $300 a month, and your not your insurance, your taxes, and then your insurance. And so you're making a monthly payment, one to the mortgage company, but you're not making 3 checks, you're just doing 1 check. So we estimate of what your escrow account's gonna be, and that's why you have that buffer. So if your taxes go up or your insurance goes up for some reason, you have that buffer there before they'll readjust it yearly. And you'll know what your payment could fluctuate when it doesn't with your fixed mortgage, but it can fluctuate based on your insurance or your taxes. So we collect any payoff figures for the current liens on the property to be paid at closing, because you won't have any liens or encroachments when you close the day of closing. Like I said, you'll have a warranty deed, or you wouldn't be able to close. Sometimes there's a problem that you might have to close late because there is a lien out there or something that needs to be taken care of. And then we prepare the closing package. And we do all the post-closing deed and mortgage recordings. And so when you go there and we're going through 180 pages and I'm explaining them to you and stamping the stamp, you're going to be recorded that day if it's before 3 o'clock, and you will be the new owners. And then you'll get a deed that you'll put in a safe place when you, in a couple of weeks, and you've owned that property. So it's not so exciting, but.
Well, the closing day is exciting, and that's also another huge reason why I work with Tracy, because Tracy is so good at what she does. She always has a great company, a great team behind her in terms of the title work, really well-respected attorneys that know exactly what they're doing, and get the job done right away. But a big part of what Tracy does as a title closer, that's her job, is she sits with you, and she sits with all of us at the closing table at the closing day, and she goes through this, what is that? Like
180 pages.
a stack of pages like that big, and and usually it'll be fairly boring with like other title closers because they may be an attorney, and it's not fun. With her, it's so much fun. It is, it really is. We have a good time, and we make sure that that moment is special for the buyers, because that's, for the most part, I mean, if you're a first-time buyer, that's a really special time to buy. I mean, and have that, and make sure that you capture that moment. We take a picture with you, and we have fun, and we have like some wine, alcohol for you afterwards. And it's just, it's always good, and it's enjoyable to, be able to have somebody like Tracy who is so positive and enjoyable to work with and have at the closing table.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do, though, it is important that we go through the documents, and and I was a realtor for 15 years, so I really know the whole process. So when you sit at the closing table, I want you to feel comfortable when you leave that you've made the right decision.
Right. So
That's it.
that is the conclusion of the home buyer workshop. So thank you guys for coming.